There are 8 players that you need to trade for right now if you want to win your fantasy leagues. We'll tell you who they are next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're going to discuss 8 players that you need to go out and acquire right now to help you win your fantasy league. Some of these will be some long-term plays in your dynasty leagues. Some of these will be guys that you just want to try to get in your redraft leagues. Let's start at quarterback, Fabs. Who are the 2 guys that you are trying to pick up before the deadline passes?
Well, first off, I like to go for the gusto. As a Yankees fan since I'm 8 years old, although we don't really do that anymore. That's the Dodgers these days. And they're back in the World Series. We don't want to talk about that. But I would put in an offer for Lamar Jackson. And I know you're probably going to have to pay quite a bit. It's not like his value has gone down significantly. He's been injured. He's expected back this week. But, I mean, he's been Lamar, averaging 23 points per game. But look at his schedule. He got the Bears, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Steelers, and they play the Bengals twice still. Like, the schedule is really favorable for Lamar Jackson. Not only Lamar, but Zay Flowers as well. So you could maybe throw him into that list at wide receiver. But Lamar is a guy who is probably going to be hard to acquire, but I still wouldn't just say, nah, I'm not even going to try. Put your best foot forward and see if you can potentially get him, because he's got one of the most favorable schedules down the stretch. And the same goes for Jared Goff. And Goff has not been great this year, right? I mean, he's had some good games. He's been up and down. He's averaging like 17 points per game or a little bit less than that. But he's got 5 games left at Ford Field. And we all know that Jared Goff loves to play at home. And listen to the matchups he's got. The Giants, the Cowboys, the Steelers. Those are all home games. And then he plays the Commanders in week 10 on the road. So Goff's got a really favorable schedule and 3 really vulnerable pass defenses at Ford Field. So, I mean, you're looking at 20 plus points in each of those games, I would think. And he's not going to cost a lot, especially because the numbers have not been as good as they were last year. So he's coming into a bye week. So obviously, I don't know if you want to go out and put in an offer for him now, although maybe that'll help with the value of the trade if you have another quarterback that you can start in week 8. But Goff is a sneaky selection in a trade and a player who's got a very favorable matchup who can really help you down the stretch.
And back to Lamar real quick. I think in most leagues, he's going to be hard to trade for. But at least I know in a couple of my leagues, Babs, he's already been traded because the Lamar Jackson manager, their teams are just bad. He's missed too many games this year. And there was that stinker against Kansas City where it might be too hard to bounce back from that. So I think if you're in a 1 QB league, it's going to be a lot easier to go out and get Lamar.
Yes.
If you're in a super flex league or, super flex dynasty league, it's going to be much more difficult. But I do think he's going to be more available now than he has really ever been over the last 5 years.
Yeah. Because, I mean, over the last 5 years, I mean, guy's been just dynamic and productive. Yeah. And, he's coming off of the best season any quarterback's ever had in fantasy football history. He had over 430 points last season. So, so Marcus and I are not suggesting that his value is low, but it's lower than it's been. Let's put it that way. And it never hurts to make an attempt. Even in a dynasty league, if it's just a 1 quarterback traditional league, maybe that team is out, as Marcus mentioned, you can go in and, throw a first round pick at him and maybe a young quarterback if you're the team that has a shot or one of the teams that you think has a shot to go to the championship. It's one of those, Yankees type of moves, right? Or Dodgers type of moves where, and I'll use baseball as the analogy, where you're maybe giving up some good young stuff and maybe in dynasty some draft capital, but you want to win now. Like I remember when the Yankees traded away Aroldis Chapman to the Cubs, and then They got some players back. Didn't really work out that great. I mean, I guess Gleyber Torres was okay. But, the Cubs ended up winning the championship, and everyone was happy.
Don't expect, though, to pay beer prices for a champagne product, though. I'm just saying you're
Of
going to
course.
have to pay. You're going to have to pay a lot to get Lamar.
Well,
but as you met, well, more than usual. But
have you seen beer prices at stadiums these days, Marcus?
Yeah, I know. The thing is as you mentioned, he could be a league winner, because would it shock any of us if he's QB1 from week 8 on? Absolutely not. So that's why we're telling you to go out and at least send some offers and see if you can get him. Let's go to the running back position. What 2 running backs are you trying to target here before we get kicks off?
Chase Brown, and he was somebody that I had told people to trade for a couple of weeks ago. And now it might be a little bit harder to get him, because since Flacco took over, the first game he wasn't very good, but last week he was very good against Pittsburgh. But he's averaging just 10 points per game this year. I mean, that's a far cry from what he did last year when he broke out. But look at the schedule. Again, Bears, Ravens twice, Bills, Dolphins. Oh, they stink. The Cardinals, really good matchups for Chase Brown, and really good matchups for the Bengals offense to maybe continue what they found last week, and that was scoring points, both in terms of real football and fantasy football. So Chase Brown's value hasn't gone back up to what it was last year. He's still a downer at this point, and I still think you can get him at a relatively reasonable cost. And the same goes for Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren's just not a sexy name. It's just not. But he's averaging over 14 points per game this year, which is pretty good. Now, obviously, this is more for PPR leagues. In standard leagues, his value is not as great. But look at the opponents for the rest of the season. Lightning Bolts, Bengals, Bears, Bills. And yes, the Bills are bad against running backs this year, although they face some really good ones. The Ravens, and then the Dolphins. Like, those are great matchups. Jaylen Warren could, under the radar, help you go to and win your championship. And the name is not big. He's not going to blow your mind with his stats. But as an RB2 flex, giving you 14 points per game plus, that is big. And when you look at the opponents he's got coming up on the schedule, Marcus, there are some cupcakes, and a lot of them.
Real quick on Chase Brown. I think I would wait to trade for him after this Jets game, because I want to see what happens. I want to see if the Bengals win this game. And I know it's the Jets, and it's easy to say, oh, they'll beat them. The NFL is weird. A lot of times these desperate teams get wins, and I just don't think the Bengals are particularly good. But if the Bengals were to win this game, they would be 4-4 after 8 games. You mentioned some of the upcoming games: Bears, at Pittsburgh, Patriots. Then you're into December, and now we're back on like Joe Burrow watch. And if the Bengals can stay kind of alive and competitive as we get into December, maybe we do get Joe Burrow back, and maybe that's how Chase Brown continues to put up some points. But my concern would be if they lose to the Jets and they lose to the Bears, and all of a sudden this is a 3-6 team or whatever the record would be. Maybe they won't overwork their young running back. But I think I just want to wait till after this Jets game to make a decision one way or the other.
What if he has another big game and then the value goes up? I mean, that's always,
it's fair.
Problem too. So the Jets are a disaster right now.
Yeah, we'll see. For some reason, I think the Jets are going to get a win this weekend. I don't know why.
Wow.
So it happens. Let's talk about some wide receivers and tight ends that you should be acquiring in your fantasy leagues this year. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is a fun and simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown. I know he hasn't done that in a while, but I do think it's coming. And you're in the game. I love how easy it is to make a lineup. You can do so in under a minute. And you can also follow other players in the app and copy their exact lineups with just one click. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Right? That's right. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in a stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your favorite team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between login screens and prices jumping at checkout. It's all incredibly frustrating, but that's why I use Gametime, the app that actually gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and it's backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So the price that you see is the price that you pay. I love that I can see exactly what my view is going to look like in the seats from the app before you buy. It's a fantastic feature, so you're not surprised when you get to the stadium. So download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Gametime today. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Fabs, let's go to tight ends before we get to receivers, because this is a spot where if you had Brock Bowers and he's been missing time, maybe you need somebody else, or maybe you drafted Mike Gesicki hoping he would be your tight end one, and it hasn't panned out. Which tight ends are you targeting for this last, 8-9 weeks?
First off, Harold Fannin, who I wanted to get a couple of weeks ago. He's averaging right under 10 points per game, which is good for a tight end. David Njoku could be traded, right? The trade deadline is, I believe, November 4th. So it's sneaking up on us here. And so maybe Njoku gets traded. And then Fannin's got some really favorable opponents coming up, right? He's got the Patriots, the Jets, the Ravens, the Bears, the Steelers. They're all in the top 13 in terms of the most vulnerable defenses when it comes to stopping tight ends. And Fannin Jr. is just a part of this Browns offense, not only in the present, but certainly into the future. And we know that Dylan Gabriel likes to throw to his tight ends. We've seen that in his first few starts. I mean, he almost exclusively throws to the tight ends and some to Jerry Jeudy, although his numbers have been dreadful. Yeah. So Fannin Jr. is somebody that I'd like to get my hands on. And certainly in Dynasty, he's going to cost more because he's got a shot to be a top 10, top 12 tight end in fantasy for several years. But in redrafts, I think he's going to come a lot cheaper. And so I would certainly put out a feeler for him. And then Dalton Kincaid is another player. Now, he's having a career year. He's averaging over 13 points per game. He's actually averaging the 5th most points among tight ends right now. Now, he did miss the game before the bye, so you want to keep tabs on his status. He's got a great matchup this week against Carolina. So if he's back, you're going to start him. He also plays the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Bengals, who've given up the most points to tight ends, and the Patriots. So there's some really good matchups there. And if you look at Buffalo's offense, no wide receiver has really emerged as like any kind of alpha type, right?
That Keon Coleman week 1 game seems like such a mirage.
I know, it's like,
right now.
Remember that when he was really good and we got somewhat excited for about a week? And so Kincaid, as long as he's healthy, is going to continue to be a guy that Josh Allen's targets. Now, I know that there was a stretch for 3 games prior to him getting hurt where the snaps went down, and I kind of was like, I'd like to see him out there playing a few more snaps, but the production has still been there. And the matchups that he has down the stretch are very good. And considering he's banged up right now, he's probably cheaper. Just make sure you keep tabs on that status. I mean, if we hear something that the injury is a little bit worse and he's going to miss more time, then obviously this is something that you want to avoid doing. But if he's good to go, and again, he did get a bye week to get healthy, Kincaid's a pretty good, not sneaky, but clever trade acquisition.
Yeah, and I think with Josh Palmer dealing with an ankle injury, he got hurt in that Falcon game, and it seemed pretty severe. I believe Sean McDermott said he's day-to-day, week-to-week. I can't believe that he's going to play this week or in the next couple of weeks. And that just might mean more targets for Dalton Kincaid whenever he gets back out on the field.
Yeah,
I don't think this is a big injury for Kincaid. Maybe he's going to be limited one more week. It's an oblique injury, I believe. We'll see. I think Kincaid is a great buy for all the reasons you mentioned. It's also really nice that he's already had his bye week, so you don't really have to worry about that. Once he gets back on the field, as long as he can stay healthy, he's going to be in your lineup. And he's looked awesome. I think that's the other thing. Is like he's just looked awesome when he's been on the field. And I think with Buffalo, they're going to really be having to push this offense to be good in the second half of the season as they fight to win the AFC East, as they fight to maybe try to be the 1 seed. I would expect Dalton Kincaid's usage to go way up as they try to figure out who are the pass catchers that Josh Allen can lean on and trust in these big games.
Yeah, no question about that. And as we mentioned, Kincaid's been at a very thin and inconsistent position. He's been mostly consistent, and that had been his problem in the past. Like, a lot of times, now we see tight ends breaking out in year 1 or year 2, and it really didn't happen with Kincaid. But now year 3, he's having a good season. And so maybe there's a bit of a dip because of the injury. And as long as it's not serious, and I think I agree with Marcus that it's probably not something that's going to keep him out long term, I would certainly be going and trying to acquire him in a trade.
All right, what about some receivers? Which receivers are you going after?
First guy is Wan'Dale Robinson. And Wan'Dale Robinson is not like the sexiest name in the world. You know who he's averaging more points than per game this year? Lad McConkey. And there's no Malik Neighbors. And the schedule is, as we say in the Northeast, wicked favorable for Wan'Dale Robinson. He's got the Eagles this week. He already burned them a couple of weeks ago. He's got the Bears, the Packers. They're 15th in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. The Lions, the Patriots, the Commanders, and the Raiders. Oh my. All of those teams in the top 15 in most points allowed to wide receivers this year. And Wan'Dale Robinson is not going to be expensive. Why? Because he's Wan'Dale Robinson. You're not going to have to pay through the nose for him. He's going to be the most targeted player on that offense. Jackson Dart looks great. And so I would go out and get him now before he strings together more good games where his value is going to go up. And the same goes for Jordan Addison. Now, the one thing I'm worried about with Addison is the quarterback situation. Because if they go back to J.J. McCarthy, I'm going to cry for my Addison and Jefferson shares. But did you know that Jordan Addison is averaging 17 points per game? That's 6th most among wide receivers who've played at least 3 games. He's been great. And look at the schedule. Lions twice, Ravens, Bears, Commanders, Cowboys, Giants. Yes, my voice just went up. Why? Because those are really good matchups. So he's got a great schedule. The one question is quarterback. But Addison doesn't bring up I'll give you an example, and I'm going to throw Bob Harris under the bus here, but I love him. He loves me. It's fine. In the Kings Classic, I have Addison and Justin Jefferson. I'd like to split them up. I offered him Addison for Courtland Sutton straight up, and he said no. Sutton's a way better player. No, he's not. Addison's averaging more points per game than Courtland Sutton. So you can get Addison right now for a non-elite, obviously, type of player, maybe a 2-for-1, but he is an underrated player in fantasy right now. He's not Justin Jefferson, but he's darn good. And in fact, I would guess that over the last 3 weeks, he's probably averaged more points than Justin Jefferson because Jefferson's not getting into the end zone. So Jordan Addison is somebody that, again, he's not like the big, sexy type of name. He's a number 2, but he's darn good, and he's in Kevin O'Connell's offense, and that is a win.
I love Jordan Addison. I think he's an awesome player. If you watched that game last week against Philadelphia, they could not cover him one-on-one. I mean, he got open at will in that game, and maybe the quarterback play improves. Maybe McCarthy comes back in the next couple of weeks, and you see this offense go to another level. But Addison, I disagree with Bob. I think Addison is a superior player to Courtland Sutton. I think the Broncos, if they try to trade for Addison, would have to attach picks with Sutton to go out and get him. That's how much I think of Jordan Addison. So
I'm going to make Bob listen to this podcast, and then he's going to swear at me, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Wan'Dale Robinson, who I've been a fan of for a long time.
Yeah.
How many receptions do you think Wan'Dale has in his last 22 games? Just give me a number.
Well, I know he had 93 last year. So, I mean,
120 catches in his last 22 games.
He's a catch machine, dude. I mean, he is an absolute catch machine.
And I think the point is, even if you go back into the 2023 season, he's been pretty consistent. I believe that the number that I have here, in his last 30 games, he's averaging 5.5 receptions per game.
It's dope, man.
If you're in a PPR league and he's averaging, he's averaging about 55 receiving yards per game, which again, I know is not great, but you're looking at double-digit fantasy points every single week. And he's unbelievably consistent because he gets a lot of these underneath targets. He converts them into catches. And there's some games like last week, he turned his targets into 95 yards, almost had a touchdown. He had a touchdown the previous week. Wan'Dale Robinson is one of these guys where I think there's a bias towards people thinking maybe he's not a great NFL player and a decent fantasy player. I just think he's a good actual NFL receiver. And by the time the 2025 season is over, I think we're all going to acknowledge that. So I think he's a great player to buy right now.
He is. And I don't think his value, even though the numbers that you have mentioned are factual, I don't think his value is like just gone through the roof to the point where he's going to be hard to acquire.
No, I think you can get him relatively cheap right now. And honestly, I bet you can get him for a bigger name player who's putting up like half the production he is, just because you mentioned it. It's Wan'Dale Robinson. And when people think of Wan'Dale Robinson, they don't think of a great NFL receiver, but he's going to help you win your leagues this year. All right, Fabs, let's talk about what is the right time to get out of a fantasy league or a dynasty league and what causes that to happen. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings that same intention to how they craft every single model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make your everyday drives feel like anything but, with smooth handling to incredible controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Podcast. 2 shows every single day, one in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Fabs, let's talk about when is the right time to get out of a fantasy league or a dynasty league. I know you're going through it a little bit right now. Can you explain to the listeners when is the right time to make this move?
When it's just not fun. Fantasy football is all about fun. And for me, this has become stressful. And I've talked about this league on the show in the past. And it just has too many roster spots. It has too many people who think they can rob other managers. And it's got too many people who hoard quarterbacks. It is a super flex league. And when I tell you that there are quarterbacks who are not on NFL rosters right now that are owned in this league, I'm not lying. There are quarterbacks who don't play in the NFL. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're delivering DoorDash right now, but they are on someone's roster. And the rosters are way too big. It's 28 players, but then there's a taxi squad and you have 4 other potential players there. Then there's 4 other IR spots, which I agree with the IR spots. But when you're getting down to where a roster in a dynasty team can have 38 players, it's too much. And so people just hoard quarterbacks. And I've been unfortunate because my quarterback situation has gone to hell. I have Russell Wilson. I had Justin Fields. I had Jake Browning. I had Anthony Richardson. This draft occurred when Richardson was actually valuable. And right now, the only quarterback that I can use is Dylan Gabriel.
So hold on. I know there's listeners right now that are saying, Fabs, this just sounds like sour grapes because your quarterbacks are banged up.
But no. It's bad luck. But the problem is I can't improve myself because there's nothing on the waiver wire. And if I try to make a fair trade with somebody, they come back with trying to rob me. Some dude offered me Joe Flacco for Roma Dunze. I mean, like, that's insane. You don't do that. Especially to somebody like me. I kind of know what I'm doing. So, right? I mean, like, if somebody offered that to Marcus, he'd laugh his way all the way to the reject button. And so, like, most of the people in this league I don't know. They think.
Well, I think that's the thing. Real quick.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. I play in a couple really big roster leagues. but I know everybody, and I think everybody knows them well enough to call them or text them to make trades. And so you're right. There's not a lot of waiver wire action in those leagues. So the way that you have to improve your roster is through trades. But if you're in a big league that, where there's not a lot of trading, your league can get very stagnant. And that's what it sounds like is happening here.
There's a team where Sam Darnold is their 5th quarterback. That's insane. And so I offered a 2nd-round pick for Sam Darnold, and they want a 1st. I'm like, I told my buddy who, is a commissioner, I was like, I'll run the league the rest of the year, but I'm out. I can't do this league anymore. And it's not sour grapes. It's just not fun. Like, if people were more reasonable in terms of like their trade expectations, I would still do it. I mean, if I offered a 2nd-round pick for Matthew Stafford and the guy said no, he wants a 1st. Like, no, there's no world where Matthew Stafford is worth a 1st-round pick in a dynasty draft. He's just not. He's 37 years old. I don't know how many more years he's going to play. I don't care how desperate I am. I'll play Dylan Gabriel or I won't start a quarterback because I'm not going to get robbed by somebody because of the structure of the league is forced me. And there's other people too, Marcus, who are screwed at quarterback because there's a couple of teams that have hoarded them and won't trade them for a reasonable cost. And so when stress becomes something involved in a league, that's when you need to get out. And that's why I'm probably going to be out after this year. And I'm also not going to trade away all these draft capital,
and that's what I was going to say. There is some trade.
Screw over the guy who's going to take the team, next year and moving into the future.
There is some etiquette involved. Please don't be that guy that, even if you have a hint that you might be leaving the league, don't trade all these future 1st-round picks to try to go for it this year. That's just being a bad dude. Like, you don't want to do that. Now, I know in my leagues, if you trade away a future 1st-round pick, you have to put in your league dues right away. And that prevents that from happening, right? Because, you now have a financial commitment to that team in future years, right? But I think the number one thing, if you just feel like it's a drag to check your fantasy lineups and you don't even want to go into the waiver wire and you're not making moves, like that's a pretty good sign that you're mailing it in, right?
It's literally barren.
Right.
There's nothing there on the waiver wire ever. So
if it feels like a stress to even go check your league, that's a good sign that, hey, maybe this one's not for you. That doesn't mean that fantasy football and dynasty football isn't for you. Maybe it's just that league setup. And I know that that's happened to me in a couple of leagues before where things just get stale, whether it's lack of movement or you don't love the way that it's set up or it doesn't feel competitive. It happens. It's not a big deal. Just recognize, hey, finish out the year. Let your commissioner know ahead of time that you're thinking about leaving. That's at least the proper way to do things.
Yeah. And this is something that's actually happened to me twice over the last 5 years. There was another league where I don't know anybody. I knew one person. No one responded to trades. No one got back to me. And I told the guy, I'm like, dude, I'm out. Like, this is not fun. So I would say this. I will never play in another league where I don't know the majority of the people in the league. Because that is what makes it more fun than anything else. Like, I get it. Like, if you're in high stakes leagues, that kind of stuff.
It's different. Yeah.
Especially in Dynasty, though. Like, this is a long-term thing. Like, you're going to be in on this for a while. And that's my fault. I shouldn't have accepted the invitation to the league. I was, one of my buddies is the commissioner. And I didn't think it was going to be like this. So that's also a big part of it. Fantasy football is a lot of fun, but it's all about community and keep in touch with people. And I want to play in leagues Marcus, you and I are not in a dynasty league together. So maybe, we do something next year where we try to get a bunch of our pals together. Yeah. We may even invite Bob Harris. I don't know. And we, we get together and we do something and we have a little fun with it. Maybe we do that next year. Mm-hmm. But this one here, and again, if you think I'm being a crybaby and sour grapes and stuff like that, okay, you're wrong, but okay, that's fine. It's not fun, right? It's not funny. I don't listen, I'm 52 years old. I don't want to do stuff that's not fun anymore.
Fantasy football should be fun
in my life. All I do is work and I love it, but you know what I mean? I want to do stuff that's fun. And this league is just not fun anymore.
All right. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every single day. For your second listen, again, check out the Locked On NFL podcast, 2 shows every single day. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. We will see you back here on Friday for starts and sits. Make sure you guys tune in then.